this upcoming season, do you want to stay in Portland?
In a perfect world, I could spend my entire career in Portland.
All right. In a perfect world, I would spend my entire career in Portland. Richard, it seems to me like there's sort of two different sides of Dame here. One where it's like, yes, I would like to stay in Portland, loyalty, that's what he's built his career on. And then the other side is I want to win, and I don't see a way to do that in Portland. What's your reaction to these comments?
Well, my thing is, as a former player, you have to ask yourself, it's like, how long is a person supposed to be loyal? Mm-hmm. So sometimes they're like, well, Dame, they gave you this large contract. Dame was going to get that contract. They drafted Dame. Dame wasn't going to not be drafted if the Portland Trailblazers didn't take a risk. He was going to get drafted. Dame was going to work hours and hours and hours to become a great player. So that's where I don't view money as the loyalty that the Portland Trailblazers are showing Dame.
Okay.
He earned everything. And so now when a team has an opportunity to show loyalty, it's like, hey, we're in a rebuilding phase. We have a different direction that we might want to go. Then Dame is like, hey, we are no longer loyal to each other. That is gone. Because at one point in time, we had the same vision. We no longer do. This is not Dame not being loyal to the Portland Trailblazers. This is the Portland Trailblazers just heading in a different direction, and Dame sees it and doesn't want to be a part of that. That's not a lack of loyalty, in my opinion.
Right. So right now, it just looks like right now he doesn't fit the timeline or the expectations that the Portland Trailblazers have, which begs the question then, where do we stand now? Because when you're talking about a player like Damian Lillard, an all-NBA type of player that averaged just over 32 points last season, the most he's averaged in his career, you would think all the assets, all the chips are going to be pushed in. But that's not what we've seen so far. Why is that?
I think there's a few reasons. Number one, contract and age. When he is 35 and 36 years old, he's going to average $60 million a season. And under this new collective bargaining agreement, that has a far different impact on a team's payroll and their ability to put other pieces together to win. That's one. And what the trade, we can call it the trade market, the NBA portal, is going to look like next summer. Yeah. There could be some massive talents available for trades next season, maybe at the trade deadline, maybe next year. So you have teams weighing the assets they might use to trade for Damian Lillard versus who could be available to them that we don't want to be out of the game for some players younger, first-team All-NBA type players who may be in that marketplace. And then also the factor of he doesn't want to play for us, whoever you are. Now, he's under contract for 4 years. I think there are teams who will still trade for him, but it's a little bit of a negotiating crutch where you tell Portland, hey, I'm not offering you everything we might because we're taking risk here. He has said he doesn't want to play for my team. He only wants to play in Miami. And that kind of dulls the offers a little bit. That's why we are where we are now, which is 2 weeks from training camp. Yep. Portland is trying to put together a number of multi-team scenarios to see if they can get the assets back that they want in a trade for Damian Lillard. Listen, they have been more, I think, aggressive here in the last few weeks, only because the league started up again. Labor Day comes, teams are engaging again, and I do think they're engaging. The question is, do they find a deal here in the next couple of weeks, or do they have to bring Lillard back to camp?
He wants to go to the Miami Heat. We all know that. I don't even think the Miami Heat have put out their best offer yet because I don't think they have to, because the rest of the league is like, well, he wants to go there. If we trade for him, is he going to be unhappy here? Are we just going to turn into a way station, as one GM put it to me, for Damian Lillard until he gets to where he wants to go? And look, this is a 33-year-old, small-ish guard. It's not a wing. It's not a 6'10 player. It's not a guy who fits on every team. If you already have a good, smallish guard, that complicates your thinking and takes a lot of teams out of the bidding because you can't pair the two of them and have a defense that will really withstand playoff pressure. And to Woj's point, look, not to put it too baldly, but Giannis's recent comments have changed the landscape of the league at least a little bit, and have had teams at least have the meeting of, wait a second, do we need to keep our powder dry?
Yes, you do.
If we think we have a 1%, 2%, 5%. And by the way, the Bucks may not have to trade Giannis at all. They may win the title this year.
But
everything's fine. He signs an extension. But those comments, along with everything going on in Philly, have at least forced you to have the meeting of, do we need to keep our powder dry? I don't know that Miami is having that meeting because they know Dame wants them and they want Dame.
It's a timeline of whim now, too, and Miami certainly has that timeline. Let's bring in our resident big man, Kendrick Perkins, into the conversation. Richard is so happy to see you, Perk. Your thoughts on Damian Lillard as it stands here on September 19th?
Well, Richard, I'm glad you finally decided to come to work. All right? That's one thing. You finally earning your money. Here's the thing, right? Here's the question that I have. How bad do the Miami Heat actually want Damian Lillard? Like, we're talking about a guy that averaged 32 last season. One of the best PGs, one may argue the best PG in the game. I believe it's Steph Curry, but Dame is right there with him. And I think about situations and guys like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant said, I want out and I want to go to Phoenix. The the Phoenix Suns made that happen, giving up Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, a whole lot of picks. They gave up the world. So I know Jimmy Butler wants Damian Lillard. I know Bam Adebayo wants Damian Lillard. But how bad do Pat Riley and their front office want Damian Lillard? Because if they wanted him and they feel like he's the missing piece to the puzzle of them actually completing the mission, why haven't they pulled up the trigger? We know that his cost is not going to be low. They're going to have to pull something out.
Richard, who is it that you have the most questions about heading into the season?
Well,
any of the
apparently the producer in my ear is telling me that I have the most questions about the Warriors. So let's roll that. Let's bring them up. Look, we understand that the addition of Chris Paul is a unique one. I'm not worried about his fit, but the question is, who starts? Obviously, Looney. And you know Steve Kerr, over many iterations of the Golden State Warriors, has had a depth lineup, have had a Hampton 5. He's had a lot of different lineups. Does he stay with Looney or does he go with Chris Paul? So if Chris Paul is going to be a starter, now they're ultra small. Now you're talking about Draymond having to go against a lot of centers. And when you're talking about the best players in the league right now are big men. So that could complicate things. But we know that this is the lineup that the Warriors would go with. Why do I know this? It's mainly because Jarrett Jack, I was on that Warriors team the first year that Steph set the three-point record. And what did they have? They had Jarrett Jack at the point, and they had Steph and Clay running. Now, with all due respect to my guy, my bald man, Jay Jack, Chris Paul is a better game manager. So the open shots that Steph and Clay are going to get are going to be tremendous. But on the defensive end, especially because we know that Chris Paul can break down, that's kind of going to be the issue. Will size be a problem? That's why I'm concerned about the Golden State Warriors, or I have my biggest questions and curious to watch them work.
Right, particularly, Zach, because we have talked about Chris Paul coming in to shore up the second unit for Golden State, and whether or not that's actually going to be how he used remains a question. But that wasn't the starting lineup that you had the most questions about.
I don't necessarily have the most questions, but when I look at the Eastern Conference, I see a little instability at the top.
Yep.
Giannis said what he said. Boston has a new identity. Philadelphia is a mess. This team right here, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're all in. Donovan Mitchell is all in. They traded everything for him. He's extension eligible, and they were awful in the playoffs last year. Awful. And one of the reasons they were awful was the spacing with their two big guys, Mobley and Allen, wasn't good enough. And it wasn't good enough because this guy right here wasn't on the team yet. That was the fifth starting spot that they sought to address. Karis LeVert's better off the bench. Isaac Okoro, he's extension eligible. He hasn't shot it well enough from even on corner threes. Can Max Strus fill the void? Because Cleveland, they're young and up and coming, and that four-man core they have is young. They're under pressure to do something this year because that first-round loss to the Knicks, where they just got bullied and they couldn't figure out their offense, was a massive, massive disappointment. And so I'm looking at their starting five. Is that the answer? And if it's not the answer, what's the backup answer?
Well, it's not just Strus. I love that because that's what they were missing. They were missing floor spacing, allow those guys to work. But I also like the rookie Imani Bates. So you got a young guy, he's 6'9", have him stay in the corner. Those are the guys that can create spacing for you in random moments when someone's in foul trouble. Yep. They won the summer league, so they've got some guys that are going to be battling and fighting.
They won the summer league?
I'm saying because Imani played well.
There's rings.
Imani played well
as well.
The young guy that they got in the second round pick that a lot of people thought had a top 5 talent.
All right, Cavs, you won the summer league.
And now the expectations are all right.
The conference finals.
Okay, see, this is where he's going to be disrespectful. We won the summer league my first year, and we went to the NBA Finals. That's all. I'm just going off experience.
So that was summer league like 40 years
Boston
ago.
Summer League. Boston
exactly.
Summer League.
All right, so we've talked about the Golden State Warriors. We've talked about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's bring in our resident big man once again, Kendrick Perkins, because there is something else that he spies, that he is looking at in terms of these starting fives.
I am, Malika, and I'm actually looking at the Phoenix Suns, right? I want to look. We know that they're starting DeAndre Ayton. We know that Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker are going to be getting buckets. But who's going to be that guy that's going to bring that toughness do all the little things, be able to hold his spot from the corner three. I'm going with Josh Okogie. I think he's the perfect fit for this starting five. They need a guy that's going to get down and dirty and know his role. He brings a certain type of tenacity. I'm looking forward to see how he flourishes alongside Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and D Book. And also, he could put the kid in DeAndre Ayton back. He's going to be vital to this starting five and to this team on his approach this season.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Keep them going, try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA, I'm here,